So, what is the best way to add electrical accessories to the 2024 Toyota Tacoma? You know, it's different. Things are set up different. The battery is on the other side of the truck. That grommet that was present in the other truck doesn't seem to be there. So I'm going to show you how I did it in mine and what I think is the best way to add electrical accessories to the new Tacoma. But before I do that, I have to ask your opinion. Take a look at the front of my truck, particularly this tire. It looks to me like it's pointing inwards, like the camber or the adjustment is off. I don't know if it's just because of when I pull into the garage, I make a turn up an incline and it's not quite restabilized, if you will. But doesn't that look a little bit off to you? I don't know. It always looks off to me. Kind of weird. But let's get to the meat of the video, and that is adding electrical accessories to the Tacoma. First of all, let me show you what I've got inside, and this is awesome. This is where I chose to mount the OxBeam controller, I guess. And you can see what I have is the 8 accessory controller. I believe there are different versions you can get, and all I did was add some double-sided tape and just kind of stick it on there. I didn't drill any holes or anything like that. Now, I did make a little bit of a hole here, yeah, so I could run the wiring through down below and get it through the firewall. But honestly, nobody's ever gonna know that's there, especially if I didn't tell you. Now, as far as the system itself, obviously, as you can see there, it is an OxBeam. Let's go ahead and put the hood up. Still digging the red line tuning struts, man. Those things are awesome. But the 2024 is different. We no longer have the battery over here, which was ideal before, because if you're gonna mount the control head or unit like I did inside, you want it on the driver's side, right? But now the battery's over there. And a question I had this morning was, how did you do the wiring? Where did you mount the unit? And how did you get the wiring over there? Well, it's pretty simple. The wiring itself, I simply ran from the unit here, right back up here, and then across the front of the engine bay, right over to the other side. Now, there is a grommet down there. That great big giant grommet that nobody, at least me, ever wants to go through, but I did. And you can see if you look right down there, this wire here, which is right here, runs down and then goes through a hole that I made inside the grommet down below. You can see that wire on the, I think it's on the right below or beside the red and white wires. That's where I go through the grommet to get inside to the engine bay. Not that big of a deal. We used to have a grommet right up above that big one there that you could simply pop out. It was blank unless you had a manual transmission, and you could run through there. So it pops through the grommet, runs along the front of the engine bay right over there into the battery. Again, remember, the battery used to be right here, right? The other question was, how did I mount it? Well, I did something I don't really love to do, but I mounted it on top of the fuse panel you can see here, right? I drilled a couple of holes down through the fuse panel and then put a couple of pretty shallow or short screws in, and then put a nut on the other side. The reason I say I don't like to go through that is because you never want to create an opportunity for water to get onto your fuses, right? I mean, water and electricity does not mix. So after I drilled the holes and put the screws on, I went ahead and put some silicone sealant both on the underside and the top side. And you might be able to see it. It's the kind of shiny stuff you can see right here around, and I put a pretty good amount on there. But around where the screws are and the holes, I put a washer on the top to kind of seal against that adhesive sealant, and I did that on both sides. That enabled me to go ahead and mount the unit on top. Now, as far as wiring it to the battery, that's very simple. Positive side, obviously, usually in red, it is with this OxBeam unit, goes to the positive, and then the negative I actually have mounted to the screw you can see right there. And I don't recall if that screw was there. I don't think it was. I think that's a screw that I actually added. I should check that while we're in here, make sure it's still tight. And it is. Always want to check your work after a while to make sure that it doesn't vibrate loose or anything. But you can see that's where I mounted it. Now, with my unit, I went ahead and put a breaker in between the OxBeam unit here itself and the battery. It's a 60 amp breaker for a couple reasons. One, it allows me to cut the power without disconnecting it from the battery when I'm adding electrical accessories to it. And two, obviously, if there's ever a problem, you want to blow that breaker before you burn up your wiring. So I would highly recommend putting some sort of a breaker in if you're going to do this kind of a mod. Just save yourself a potential problem down the road. And honestly, I think any company that sells a unit without at least suggesting that you can put a breaker in is probably doing you a disservice. I don't believe that OxBeam sent one with this. This breaker is actually one that was suggested to me by another company, and I can't remember the name of the company now, but it was one where I actually built the whole switch unit myself as opposed to buying one that was finished. A fun project that was, but this is much easier. You don't have to put anything together. It's already assembled for you. I highly recommend this. I ran this unit in my other truck, maybe two other trucks, and I never had any issues with this whatsoever. Always worked perfectly well, and I love the way that the accessories go in. Let's go ahead and pop the top off. I'll show you that real quick. If I can do this one-handed, I think I can. Maybe I can. Maybe I can't. There we go. That's the guts of it, you guys can see. It's got a bunch of different fuses in here depending on what you're running. The wiring itself, and I only have one accessory on here right now. You can see wired in over here. They just go in holes, negative and positive, and you tighten down the little screws on top, and that's it. You can see I've got a 5 amp on there. That's because it's running these teeny tiny little accent lights, if you will, in the grill. I really didn't need anything more than a 5 amp. But what a simple way to add accessories. Then when you're all done, just go ahead, take your lid, see if I can do this one-handed, and push it back. It's already on. It's that easy, very simple to do. So anyway, I just wanted to get on, kind of run through that again. I've been getting questions on the channel about how to add accessories on the 2024 since things are a little bit different. It's really pretty much the same. You just have to run the wires a little bit differently. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.